Hello, my name is Isabel Alder, and today I'll be giving my presentation on the Unsung Psychology Pioneers, or Article 13. This article talks about how women and people of color are not well represented in psychology today, specifically psychology pioneers. In psychology, we mostly talk about white men's accomplishments, theories, and studies. We don't really talk about women or people of color studies. Although this representation has improved, especially from the years 1983 to 1993, a lot of people don't know women and people of color psychology pioneers, and we can't name them by name. This is because sexism, racism, and discrimination were very prevalent during the time that psychology was becoming more popular. There were many issues with women and people of color getting proper education. A lot of women weren't allowed in schools, and those women and people of color who were allowed in schools, they didn't get the degree even with the proper schooling. There's also differences between men and women of color. For example, Latino psychologist George Sanchez got his doctoral degree in 1934, while Latina psychologist Martha Bernal got her doctoral degree in 1962. African Americans also had more opportunities than other minorities, such as Asians and Native Americans. This is because black colleges finally introduced psychology as one of their majors. This is just another example of how minorities were forced to create their own programs in order to get the proper education. Government policies also made it difficult for people of color to have higher education, which limited the number of graduate students. I thought this part of the article was very important to know. For women in psychology, a lot of them didn't get married because that would mean they would lose their teaching positions in both men and women's colleges. It was also more beneficial for the man to get married, and there wasn't really any benefits for the woman to get married. Also, in women's colleges, the resources and research was very limited. They had large teaching loads, and the research available was very limited. If a woman wanted to create research, it was often buried, and if it was contradictory to other white men's theories, it was often ignored or completely forgotten. There was also a lot of discrimination within the workplace. Once applied psychology became more popular, it was seen as more of a masculine type of laboratory work. The women were there just to help and assist the actual psychologists and scientists. Research was also typically only put out by white men. This is because, people of color didn't often get the right educational opportunities, which led them to psychology teaching jobs. There's also a large publication bias, which made it hard for people of color to get their research out and heard, and there's always a constant fight for their research to be published. So within this article, they did a little study, and the hypothesis was that women and people of color are underrepresented in today's textbooks. So in order to find the textbooks, they used the 5 most commonly used ones within a college level. For the study, they looked at the table of contents and looked for male, female, and people of color names mentioned. The results, unsurprisingly, showed that there was 302 names found, and out of those 302 names, 90.1% were male, 10% were female, and 0.3% were people of color, which means there's only one male person of color that was actually mentioned. So to conclude, women and people of color are hugely underrepresented today in psychology, which needs to change. Thank you so much for watching my presentation. If you have any questions, please comment them below. Thank you.